push the red button. So welcome to the, what did you do to your hand? Sorry.
Oh, it's a little carpal tunnel.
Oh,
Too many hours on the computer.
Yeah. All right. Well, welcome everybody to our meeting of the CCGC on Thursday at 4 p.m. And we have our design engineer, Kurt Procherena from BSC Group, Frank Pepilardo, Tim Griswold, Bonnie Reamsnyder, and myself, and it is 4:04 p.m. Kind of the main purpose of today's meeting is just to do a quick update, answer any questions that we need going forward, and focus on our community outreach effort, including our letters, which are in development, any tasks that we have to accomplish between now and our next meeting. We have some minutes to approve and set our next meeting. At this point, there's no public on. So I think as far as project updates, the first update we have is Frank and Tim and I met with the owner of the Easy Mart. And Frank, do you want to give an update? And I'll take notes.
Sure. Somebody just digged in.
That was my phone.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, we met on Tuesday at 8:30, and was Mary Jo, myself, and Tim, and the gentleman, one of the partners in Easy Mart. Discussed with him the plans for the sidewalk and what we had proposed, giving him the documents that Kurt had provided to us regarding easements and new curb lines and so on and so forth. He was all in favor of it, willing to work with us any way he could, and just said to us, get him the legal documents so he can resolve it, take care of it. So it went quite well. He had a couple of quick questions. One of the things he did request is if we can, on his front island, extend and replace the curb that is there, which is kind of old and decrepit. He was wondering if we could bring that curb around and give him a new curb. We made no representations regarding yes or no. We just said we would be bringing the curb in where the entryway came in, but we didn't discuss how far we would take that, whether we could give him the entire curb or just a portion of it from where the entryways came in or not. I think that was pretty much the only desire he had. He wanted to make sure his accesses were maintained, and we assured him they would be. They would just be designed so they'd be more in line with what the regulations were, the DOT and the town regulations regarding access. And he was very agreeable.
Thank you, Frank. Tim,
I think he's looking to us to provide the easement document for the sign that we intend to have there, which is that triangle, as I understand it, the red triangle. So I guess we would need a little survey. Would we need, Kurt?
Actually, it's the scope of work we talked about at the last meeting in the proposal. It is essentially the research at the town hall, preparation of the physical easement plan by the licensed surveyor. We work with Michael, and he files the plan that includes a legal description of the property encompassed by the easement that we also prepare. And we put all that together. That gets linked up with Michael's easement document. That gets presented to the owners. Once they execute, Michael then files that on the land records at the town hall. And at that point, the easement is official. And then if you recall, we had that alternate task to place pins at the key points of the easement, so it's memorialized in the field, as we say. So in the future, anybody could go out there and physically locate where that easement exists in the field. And we do that because we've had issues where as time goes by, people forget, perceptions change, the physical nature sometimes of the land changes, trees and different things get planted, and then all of a sudden somebody has a misperception as to where an easement is located, and it can cause real problems. By putting the pins in the ground, it removes any doubt, regardless of what changes take place. You can locate those pins in the field, and then there's absolute certainty as to where the easement is.
Yeah,
Well,
he's
he did indicate at our meeting, and that, hi, Jim, how you doing?
Hey there.
You look like you're ready for surgery or pizza, it's one or the other. But the partner did indicate that they were ready to execute the whatever legal documents we sent them based on our conversation. So once we get that and Mike is all set and you guys are all clear, it appears as though he's ready to give us the okay.
Terrific.
That's good news. And just to remind the committee that we cannot submit our final package to DOT for review until that easement is in place, because it's a requirement of the project.
So what are we waiting for? Why isn't it done yet, Kurt?
Give me the go ahead and I'll have my surveyor start on that tomorrow. I think we said, we could have our stuff done, and I think we said 7 to 8 days or something. We can get it done very quickly.
So Tim, can we sign off on that?
I'd say so. If there's trouble accessing grant money, initially we could use the Selectmen engineering line, something like that. What do you figure the all-in costs for the various work necessary would be?
I can give you an exact number. Let me just open it right up. Our proposal was $1,800 lump sum. That's a fixed cost regardless. And then to put the pins in the ground was $750.
You have all that, Tim.
Okay, so $2,550. I think it's important we get this detail taken care of so it doesn't become a stumbling block later. Do you believe that when the spigot is turned on for grant funds, would this be something the grant would likely pay for, or is that simply for construction and this would be considered sort of like the home improvement stuff down on Hartford Avenue?
The grant does not pay for easement work. That's on the municipality.
It could be used?
No, it does not. Cannot be used.
Oh, cannot. All right. So we'll verify where the best place for this is. But I would say it's probably going to be a critical path item that we don't want to have lag. Right? I mean, sooner the better, right?
Definitely agreed. Definitely agreed.
Yep, and our town attorney had done a draft, which everybody got, of the easement. We have to just put in the pieces, parts for that. It also comes out of legal. Okay. Tim, can you and I follow up on this then?
Yeah, we'll look at the various line items that we have available and put it through.
Okay. We'll
And
get
to-
back to her as soon as
Okay,
possible.
and to confirm,
Yes, we're
the
looking-
way I wrote the proposal was that it's an amendment to the contract. If that's how you'd like to do it, I'm happy to send you a little amendment document that has the proposal attached to it. Just let me know. If you want to do it as a separate standalone, sort of independent of the project, because it's something you want to keep separate, I can modify the proposal into such a format that it's kind of a standalone document. Very easy for me to do either way. Just let me know.
Well, it's not engineering work and it's not construction work, so it's got to be a separate standalone, right?
No, because it's similar to, not necessarily, because it's similar to, for example, some towns have actually had engineers do other work that are ancillary to the grant project. The DOT doesn't care. They say, you can do it under the same program, but you're gonna pay for it as the town.
I
It just
think
means
it's
so.
Yeah, I really think it's part of our, I'm sorry, Frank. I think we started at the same time. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I was going to say that because we have a flat rate that Kurt has already given us for the engineering portion of this grant, and our funding came from various sources for that, that maybe it might be appropriate that this easement go as a separate standalone document because the funding may come from a totally different source than the funding came from. That would be more a function of what Tim,
I'll talk with our finance people and we'll get a good read on it, but I think likely it would be a separate thing that would be done through the municipal budget and not the project.
Okay.
And once confirmed, I can rejig the proposal accordingly. Happy to do it. It's very easy for me to do that.
Okay, so hopefully we can get feedback from Nicole by tomorrow. Get back to Kurt so we can get this done. I know it's been sitting on our plates for about a month. Okay, any other updates? Then Kurt's been really working very hard in getting us the pieces, parts for those letters we decided on at our last meeting. I sent you all drafts with the information that Kurt had provided me. I added that to them today. And I only sent you guys a few of the attachments just because it's probably going to be a big file for you guys to open up, but it shows what would go along with it. A temporary rights agreement, which we have to finish. And Kurt, on those agreements is pretty much the work that you texted to me. What needs to go in there also?
Yes. Yep. That speaks directly to what would go in the document. And I'm happy, once everybody's comfortable with that language, I'm happy to slightly edit that language if we need to. As an example, the text that I sent you says your property. We could change that. And then instead of making it like a big paragraph, I'm happy to break it up into kind of numbered items. Additionally, we would probably take out all the work that's done within the town's right of way. We would strip that out.
Right.
So once we are at a point where I guess we know that, okay, everybody's set, that is what's going to happen, I will then just take that language, put it into each temporary access agreement, modify it, and send you the whole batch.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So there's that piece that goes along with the letter as one of the attachments. And then in some of the cases, as you know, the Port Alliance, we have a fence agreement that we have to work on that will go with it.
Yeah, I'm tinkering with that a little bit. I can show it to you. I haven't finished it, but you did a big start, so just might be a couple of.
I spent a lot of time on this. So, all right, I'll look at that with you tomorrow, so we don't have to go through on Moss today and try and speed through. That'd be great, Tim. Appreciate it. These are just the letters on Hartford Avenue, and then obviously we've got some that have to be done for Shore Road. So they're in development. So I just sent you guys the drafts so you can take a peek at them, and any feedback would be appreciated. Any other updates? Okay. Moving on to our community outreach. Obviously, the letters are a big chunk of this, and those need to go out as soon as we can. But I was thinking it would be nice if we could set our video informational meeting and add those to the letters too. So everything about the project is in one letter. What does everyone think about that idea?
I think it's great if we can, package it all up in one nice little neat package.
Okay. So
I agree.
Great. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Frank. So we need to look at what we think is realistic for having that all hands meeting.
Want to do it on an evening or a weekend, or I mean, what would be a more appropriate time?
Well, I'm thinking probably for most people there, it might need to be a evening meeting.
Typically DOT favors weekday evening because they know that that's when statistically most people are available.
Bonnie, were you speaking?
I didn't say it.
Is that Bonnie trying to?
I
Somebody's garbled.
So the letters obviously have to get out, and if we were thinking of, I know at our last meeting, we talked about getting them out mid-October. If we can really shoot for mid-October, I would think then the meeting would have to be either the next week, the week of the 19th, or the week of the 26th.
Are you going to get pushed back because it's so late?
Probably.
Let me check the town website and see what meetings are going on.
But Bonnie, I don't think we're going to be, I mean, we have to do this contract. Well, I don't know that we'll get it done before the 12th, before Columbus Day.
I agree. I just am pointing it out, and at least we could say we understand that people, when people complain, we understand, but we had to keep this rolling.
Well, it's a Zoom meeting, so in person is really not an issue. But I did check the town calendar, and the 22nd and the 29th are open nights on the town meeting calendar.
Thursdays. Should we plan for the 22nd? Is that
Good.
Okay.
That works for me.
Thank you.
Yep, that's fine for me too.
Thank you. How about you, Jim?
Good.
Thursdays are tough. I'll see what I can do, but it's
Okay.
steal it if I can sort of day.
All right.
Would we do it? Would he have any in person, or would it be totally Zoom or WebEx?
It's gonna be online.
WebEx, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in a way, that's good because Kurt can share screens and things. Does that work for you, Kurt? I forgot if I heard. Okay.
Yeah, and just to confirm, I apologize for the silly question, October 22nd?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure it wasn't November, just to, yes, that definitely works. And I think what I'll do is I'll have a nice little slide presentation ready. So it's takes care of itself and just flows through kind of what we've done in the past.
Right.
Some of the diagrams, we try to keep it simple enough that it's not just a ton of information that people don't even know what they're looking at, but clear so they can see what's going on. And then, of course, a question and answer period. So I think that would work out very well.
Is that going to be 7 or 7:30 p.m.?
Is 7 okay with everybody?
That's good.
That works for me.
Okay.
Does this have to be advertised in a newspaper, Kurt, as a public information meeting?
It does, yes. It's got to be a formally noticed meeting to make sure that it's, yep. Treat it like it would be a town meeting type thing.
So we have to make sure that the wording is really clear that it's a public information meeting, not a hearing.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we could probably want to have Mike Carey or some legal person prepare the actual wording, so we don't make a mistake.
And we could probably recycle some of the language from the first project because we know it passed muster with DOT.
We probably should have a meeting prior to that just to review the presentation, I would think, to make sure that the committee here is comfortable with everything that's going to be presented.
Definitely. Yeah, and I'll do that anytime that works for the committee.
That's great. And Kurt, the graphics that we were going to have on display for town hall, now we know that we're going to get an easement, even though it's not signed at Easy Mart. Do we feel comfortable printing out some graphics for people to look at if they wanted to come in person?
Yes, what I think we should do is after this meeting tonight, I have a few minor questions and clarifications. I think after tonight, I can go ahead and finalize the plan set pretty much to what I've been calling it a 95%, just because any other changes with contract documents and whatnot. And you'll see that I call it 95% to DOT also. I think probably next week, we'd be in a position where I can come down, give you the printed drawings on foam board that could then be placed in the town hall. And then I'll also give you PDFs of the same drawings that if you'd like to, you can, post them on their website or whatnot. So I'm thinking by the end of next week, we'll be in a position where we can kind of make these public.
Okay. Thank you. Good.
And the one caveat that I just want to throw in there, I just sort of realized this. Whereas Route 156 is a little bit easier because we're 100% in the right of way, I will follow the committee's lead with regard to Hartford Avenue. For example, what I would want to avoid is currently, as you know, the plans, as you've seen in the small 8.5 by 11 pieces that I've sent you, they depict the work on the private property. That work is shown on the plan sheets that depict the roadway. I would want to make sure that we didn't put plans up in the town hall and then one of those homeowners went in and saw it and said, well, wait a second, I haven't agreed to this or whatnot, and then cause a problem. So
Well,
that's the
we
one.
already discussed that we were going to send the mailings out to everybody with the plans that would be appropriate to that individual's property attached prior to the meeting. So they would have this prior to the meeting already. Am I correct? Did I understand that properly?
Yeah.
Okay. So Kurt, that somebody saying they weren't aware of it, we've already said we're going to mail this to them, and there were a couple of people we're going to discuss personally on Shore Road, which was one of your questions that you had submitted earlier. So I think we're in good shape. I mean, there's really not much more we can do with Shore Road than what we've already discussed.
Yeah, I'm talking about Hartford Avenue with the private properties.
They haven't signed off on something.
Yeah, if somebody says, well, wait, I didn't agree to that yet, I don't want to cause friction where somebody that is a home, let's say there's someone that does have a concern. Hey, wait a second, I saw these plans on display at Town Hall. You're showing work on my property. I haven't agreed to that work yet. Maybe I have issue with it. I just don't want to cause friction between the committee / project and a private property owner.
Is there a general graphic we could put up instead of,
One thing we could do, and just a suggestion, we could develop the graphic, and this would apply more for Hartford Avenue, to essentially cut off at the right-of-way line. If that would sort of help be a little more generic. We can change the view window in how we print the plan.
that makes sense.
Would you like me to do that?
I think that makes sense. I mean, given your experience, I think that was a good idea.
We've had similar issues on other projects where we're obligated to submit, whether it be, draft plans or those kinds of things that may show whether it be property takings, permanent easements that are anticipated. And then because they become part of the public record, sometimes it has been in information that has been posted on a website. And then once people see it in that domain, they assume, well, then it's a done deal. That's what's happening. Wait a second. I didn't agree to that easement. Are you saying now you're going to take my property? And then, no, that's just a draft plan. But once it ends up on a website or posted at the town hall, people tend to perceive it as, well, this is it. This is the final plan. And I just don't want to cause bad PR for the project.
Well, that makes perfect sense, cutting the property line off at the end of the town right away, with the exception of the mini mart or the easy mart, in which case that's integral to the project. So that would really put as Tim said, that's like key. That's part of the critical path. So we really need to get that easement up and running so that our drawings can include that, because that's really part of the project.
And it sounds like, the good news is, it sounds like he's on board with it. So I envision in that case, if he happened to see it, he would say, oh yeah, there's the easement, right? So that's a good thing.
Right.
And that's actually a great example. There's an example of where have the positive feedback. We can feel, I think, comfortable showing that. So we can then adjust the plan. So we actually leave that. And in fact, we do have on the plan set, it says permanent easement required. It's actually called out. Okay, I can absolutely do that. I'll plan on having those plans dropped off at town hall no later than next Friday. I'll have them mounted on foam board. And I think you said you had easels and such.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And just to clarify, I know at our last meeting, or a couple meetings ago, we clarified that regarding a prevailing wage issue, that we don't mention the old concrete that's present Upper Hartford Avenue. So that's, if there's anything on these presentations that say reference perhaps a sidewalk instead of concrete, we might want to correct that. I did change those in the text that you sent me. I just called it old concrete.
Oh, okay. Yes, understood. Yep.
Right.
Noted. Okay. Excellent point. Excellent point.
Kurt, one thing that I've been thinking about for a while, if we're going to be having a public meeting, they're going to want to know the numbers and all that sort of stuff in general sense. So will you be in a position to have the costs for the private work on the Hartford Avenue properties, and let us say some of the work that would be required on the 156 to add curbs and block off stuff, and then the whole 10% reserve thing, that I guess we have to take away from the 400, and we can maybe add it back toward the end of the project, but depending on how late in the project we can add it back, that could be an issue. That $40,000 stranded I don't know when they'd say, go ahead, you can use it for something now. And the whole prevailing wage, because in the aggregate, if we're spending a lot of money that isn't for sidewalks on the private work, let's call it, the 10% reserve and the prevailing wage, that could be a huge amount of money off of the 400. So how do we handle that with all these answers? I mean, you may have the private work about ready, but the reserve and the prevailing wage, you know, I thought you said the prevailing wage could nibble 25% of this project away. And so that means we have to tell the public, if the prevailing wage, we don't win that battle, we're going to pay a whole lot less. We might not even be able to pay 156. So I'm just, we got to think this through, because these kind of questions will likely come up and we have to be ready.
Yeah, good point. And a couple things. We typically at these meetings don't get into a lot of detail as far as the individual line items and those kinds of things on the cost estimate. We'll talk about the value of the grant. We'll talk about the estimated cost of the project in general terms. But it gets, we have found that when we start to get into a lot of detail or offer too much detail, it gets taken out of context and people don't understand how the estimates are put together, and they start to ask questions that have really no bearing on the reality of the way the project is constructed, and then people get confused. So we've tended to take a bit of a broader look, sort of that 10,000 foot view of the costs. But your point is very valid with regards to the prevailing wage. And really, what does the public want to know? How much are we getting for our dollar?
Yeah, because we're going to have to say that the 156 job will be longer or shorter depending on the outcome of some of these questions, which we don't have the answers at this point.
That's right. We don't want to go into the meeting and tell everyone, yes, absolutely, all of Hartford Avenue, the entire section of Shore Road, and then all of a sudden that doesn't happen. So that's where I think in the pre-meeting that Frank suggested, we should finalize that. I'm almost done with the estimates. I should be able to have those. In fact, I have a meeting tomorrow with Carly Corbo, I think who everybody has met. She's the engineer helping me out with those. I should be able to send an email out on Monday with the revised numbers, which at this point, because the designs are virtually completed, should be pretty darn close to what we think. Now, the prevailing wage issue is a factor. What does make it tough from our perspective is that the data that we use to generate the cost estimates, there's really three major things we use. We use the item, so for example, loam. Then we use the quantity, which we derive from the plans. Then we use the unit price that we get 99% of the time from published DOT data. So DOT does not divide their price data, and they update that quarterly, by the way, and they develop that data based on projects that they've actually gotten in and bid. So it's real data. They don't distinguish between non-prevailing wage and prevailing wage. What we have found is that for the most part, their data is derived from prevailing wage projects, because most of the work DOT does is pretty large. So by virtue of the fact that, you know, a DOT project of $1 million is actually a tiny little project. So the estimates tend to bias with regards to non-prevailing wage or prevailing wage. They do tend to bias towards a prevailing wage type job. So in this instance, that actually works in our benefit versus the other way, where then if it becomes prevailing wage, all of a sudden we're shocked by the jump in cost. it's already almost built into the estimate because we're sourcing that cost data from DOT.
So those
Have you looked-
those items you mentioned,
What about the like the means directory or things like that, which kind of gives you some unit pricing in different parts of the country, which is not prevailing wage, just to give us an order of magnitude, just to do a comparison for our own purposes. You know, see whether what it might look like if we win the battle.
Yep, we do cross-check our estimates with RS Means, and we actually cross-check them in two ways. RS Means has
SRS means.
it's a book that is published of cost data, and they do it regionally. It's across the country, and it's basically like an encyclopedia of unit prices for various activities. They break down their costs generally in two ways that we use. They have unit price costs, kind of similar to what DOT has. Then they have what's called assemblies, where they've taken, let's say, a sidewalk. The way we estimate it with DOT is it's the excavation, it's the placement of the base material, the compaction of the base material, placement of the concrete. It's all broken up into a high level of detail.
Okay.
An assembly cost would be 5-foot sidewalk in place, $11 a square foot. They've already accounted for the excavation, the material, and whatnot. So we use those types of cost data to cross-check our numbers.
Okay.
So yeah, we
But-
actually do that as part of like a QA process, Frank.
With that, I'm sorry, but while I have a train of thought here, with that, moving forward with that thought, have you looked at the contractor in place, the DAS contractor in place contracts, to determine whether their, assembly costs are already in there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I had a conversation with Craig Babowitz from DOT about that last week after we had met. And I let him know that in the community connectivity grant book, the link to the DAS section of that didn't work. So I said, can you help me out? He said, well, what are you thinking of doing? I said, we're actually thinking of doing the project with it. He said, well, that's only for paving. He said, are you paving? I said, well, no, it's sidewalks. He said, well, it's for paving. He said, you're not going to be able to build a sidewalk because it's sort of apples and oranges. You have no way to address the ancillary work. We talked about the work on the private property. He said, how will you capture that? There's no unit prices in there for a gravel residential driveway. He said, how would you even make that work? I said, that's what I'm asking you. He said, nobody has ever used that on one of these projects. He said, because it's a paving type contract. So I said, okay, I'm still going to try to find out for myself. That's very helpful. Thank you. So I did some searching on DAS. I must have done 20, 30 searches to try to find where this web page or whatever it may be is. And for the life of me, I can't find it. So I put a call into DAS, into their purchasing group, I think on Friday. I'm waiting to hear back from somebody to at least tell me, where can I read the summary of this program? And I'm sorry to say, I still haven't heard back.
and just to be sure,
I called DAS in March. I'm still waiting for a phone call back too.
There you go. So you're ahead of me.
and just to confirm, the private work on Hartford Avenue is allowable under the grant, right?
It is, and I've had multiple conversations with Craig about that. He's well aware of it. In fact, on some of them, I've gotten into a pretty high level of detail of, what we're doing it and why we're doing it. On a few occasions, we talked about, in particular, the driveways and how there was a concern about the slopes. And because we were putting in the sidewalk that had a 2% slope toward the gutter, whereas now the land sloped in the opposite direction and the driveways followed that slope. And, he agreed that, yeah, you can't render someone's property inaccessible. So yeah, you're kind of stuck. You're going to have to.
And same with some of the fencing, like that anchor fence that guy's going to get and all that, that's allowable too.
Yes.
And then and the last thing is heretofore we haven't really had a construction supervision number. So that's got to be factored in. So as we look at all these things that'll soak up money, take away from actual sidewalk, we've got to be careful what we say, how far we can go on Route 156. And maybe at our next meeting, we could say, okay, the private work's going to be about this. The reserve, obviously, if it's 10% till the end, I don't know when that gets released, construction supervision. So we know the committee anyway, some of these big numbers, and then prevailing wage would be an elephant.
Yep. And I think that's a good idea. I think even if we had a meeting, next week, toward the end of the week, we will have those numbers ready, and we can really talk very specifically about limits and those kinds of things. Certainly. And I did want to add that, just touching upon one thing, you mentioned the fence as an example. Those things are eligible because they're sort of ancillary to the project. However, I do want to add an asterisk. We know that DOT audits these jobs when they're done. There always exists the chance, we just don't know, that somebody somewhere in DOT may say, hey, wait a second, we feel that that's an anomaly or something like that, right? So I just want to add that caveat that anything can happen.
But we've done our due diligence the best we could.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I mean,
that's right. It's just with an agency, you just don't know. So I don't want to say that I'm the authority on it and therefore I can guarantee, but to me, yeah, it's an eligible cost, but the project's going to get audited. And the good news is, if for some reason they said, well, that little length of fence isn't covered, it's a small amount of money.
Yeah.
But I always add that caveat when it comes to an agency, because sometimes you just don't know.
Well, we really aren't doing anything extravagant for these people.
Right. That's right.
And we certainly started off saying we are not going to do harm. So we have to do what we're doing. And we've already got the DOT's blessing. So you're right. When you work with an agency, you don't know who's going to end up auditing the project. It may not be the people we've talked with. I get that. Coming out of pharma, sometimes we had the hot dog egg folks come into the pharma who don't have a clue, and you just have to roll with it. So. All right. Thank you for that. Good questions, Tim. Thank you for the feedback, Kurt. Anything else on our community outreach concerns? Okay. All right. Kurt, you said you had a couple questions.
Yeah, I just wanted to run a few things by you. So I have a few things on my screen. Okay, in no particular order. Maybe I'll start with the easier one. May I share my screen?
Please.
Can everybody see that?
Yes.
So that is our progress report due to DOT for third quarter, closing yesterday. As you can see up here at the top, that's our July to September reporting period. I'd like to send this to DOT tomorrow. Very, very simple. I just wanted to point out, I'm calling the design of Hartford Avenue 95% complete. As I mentioned, just for the final, loose ends. Same thing with Route 156, and same thing with the project manual pending the attorney's review. And Mary Jo, I still owe you that insurance form. It's half done. You'll have it tomorrow.
You've been prioritized. It's fine. Thank you.
And then really the last thing, everything else is kind of the same. I'm calling our bid date November 16th. I had it November 1st. DOT, I don't think has seen that yet because, again, 3-month periods. I'm just thinking with the public meeting and those kinds of things. And again, to confirm, going out to bid on November 16th still gives us over a month of buffer. So we're absolutely doing fine with schedule. If this date even slipped a week or two, it will have zero impact on the bidding and whatnot. And when DOT gets this, they don't look at this as an etched in stone date. They just want to know. So I just wanted to make sure the committee was okay with that. And then you see the March 1st construction start, and then the May 30th, and essentially before Memorial Day. Everything else is the same. You'll notice item number 5 right here talks about has any right of way required to construct this project been acquired. We say NA, and that's because right of way means a taking or a purchase. It doesn't mean an easement or a temporary access agreement. So just to point that out, in case somebody looked at that, it's different than an easement. So if it's okay with the committee, I'd like to email this up to Craig Babowitz tomorrow for our 3rd quarter reporting period. The next reporting period is October to December. So we'd actually be sending that in, January 2nd, if you will. And I think this is a good report. When I talked to him, I kind of told him as much. He's very happy with the progress. I will, in fact, tell you, he mentioned, and I think, Mary Jo, you might have received similar feedback. Oline is doing very well compared to other towns that received the grant at the same time. We are way ahead of some other towns.
We need a bonus because of that.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Of course we are. Of course we are.
Let us pick up some of the money they're not using.
I'm serious on that one. Thank you for that. Looks fine to me. Does anyone else have any question on that?
I'm agreeable.
Looks good to me.
All right. Thank you very much. So that's that.
Thank you, Eric.
I'm going to start with another fairly simple one, and this is I'll look at this, go through this very, very quickly. This is just sort of a background kind of thing for the committee that a little bit early in the process, but I wanted you to be aware of it just for completeness. I'm just opening up a quick Word document that I put together. Okay, so, and I can actually send this to you, Mary Jo, so you've got it for your file. This is just a simple summary of the encroachment permit requirements for work on Route 156. Pretty standard for DOT, and they confirmed this when they sent us our approval, in a sense, of the plan set. Anytime you do work within the state right-of-way, you need an encroachment permit. Typically, what we'll do is we'll get approval from the district, like we did in this case. And then after that, the contractor tends to handle everything else. He goes down to the district. They already have us on file as having been approved. He files the permit and has to post a bond and some insurance and those kinds of things. The thing that I wanted to point out here is that they do give us, if you look at the very bottom statement, and again, not something we have to decide now, but something to think about. If the town of Old Lyme chooses to submit the permit application in their name, so in other words, the contractor wouldn't do it, the town would do it, the bond requirement and the application fee are waived. Now, the application fee, $60, big deal. The one advantage of the town doing it in that the bond requirement gets waived is your contractor will charge you for this $50,000 bond because it's essentially an insurance policy he takes out that he pays a premium on it. And the cost can vary, and I don't know if they mark it up or whatnot, but it does represent a potential cost savings. I will tell you that the cost of a $50,000 bond is probably not that much. So it may not be worth it, but full disclosure, I wanted you to be aware of this. And again, I'll send this to you, Mary Jo, just, so you have it. And by the way, mention of the encroachment permit will be part of our public meeting, not to this level of detail, but just to let them know that it is DOT's right of way. Anything we do within the right of way, needs their approval. Similarly, we will mention that, and you'll see this on the final forms that we submit with our final design. Once the sidewalk is in place, the town of Old Lyme commits to maintaining it. DOT will not maintain it. Separate from the encroachment, that's more of a real estate / right of way policy. But again, this is not something we need to think about now. Very standard procedure, but just wanted you to be aware of kind of where it fits in our overall process.
May I ask a question, Kurt?
Yeah.
Is there a time limit, or is there a term on this encroachment permit?
That's a great question, Frank. I'm not sure. It may be established at the time the encroachment permit is requested, but I can find out. I suspect there would be, because I think as far as the construction, they probably will look at what's the length of time the bond is active and what is the length of time for the insurance. Now, keep in mind, once the facility is there, by virtue of the fact that it exists and it has gone through the process, you have the encroachment permit at that time. So in that respect, it never goes away. So in other words, it's not like on Route 156, in 10 years, the DOT says, hey, your permit expired, get your sidewalks out of our right of way. It's permanent once it's gone through the process.
The reason I ask is because there may very well be a benefit for the town of Old Lyme to establish this encroachment permit. If indeed we have to take Shore Road in bits and pieces and look for other funding sources to complete it, we would have the encroachment permit already in place for whatever wasn't used on this project. So, for instance, in front of Dimitri's, if that was a portion that would be looking for funding from another source at some other point in time, the encroachment permit would already be existing. It's already there. It's established with the town of Old Lyme. Does that make sense?
Yeah, theoretically, you could get the encroachment permit for the entirety of the Route 156 targeted area. Now, I'd have to find out, and I will, if some of it didn't get constructed, does the unconstructed section have some sort of a sunset clause where it's good for 2 years and then it goes away and you got to start all over? I will find out for you what the policy is on that.
Tim, do you think Phil could be consulted on this?
I don't think so. He's more facilities. I don't know. We can ask him, but
not that he, because he used to work for DOT. I thought he might.
He was doing buildings more or less, but we can blow by him. But
yeah, I'll send an email to the gentleman that reviewed the drawing set, and hopefully he'll get back to me in short order. But because we've exchanged emails, and he'll know off the top of his head because they deal with this every day.
if we are not able to do the whole job, which we're very sure we will not, it might bode well for the next stage when that happens.
Yep, that you already have the encroachment permit in place. And as we consider future funding opportunities, every
Yeah.
little bit helps, right? To say that, look, we already have a design, we already have an encroachment permit. The funding folks like to see that projects are already in good shape and are readily constructed. They like to funnel their money to those kinds of projects.
Mhm.
So as an example, where kudos to the committee that DOT indicated we're way ahead of some other towns, that does not bode well for those other towns that have not even, some of them haven't even gotten a designer on board. Well, DOT really, really dislikes that because they want to see the money get put to use. They don't want this money just sitting idle. It's all for the public good. And we keep going back to the issues of safety and public mobility. They really
So
dislike it when the money gets used, though.
we could call the balance of this a shovel-ready project.
Yeah. Yeah.
I may have missed. Can I just ask a question about funding for the encroachment permits? I assume because it's construction, it is covered under the grant.
Yes, it's kind of built into the incidentals of the estimate, and yeah, covered by the contractor in his fee to the town.
So if we get encroachment permits for all of Shore Road, we only build part of it, we'd be on the hook, I assume, for the encroachment permits on the unbuilt portion of it, at least.
But for you, it's free.
Okay.
Because they waive the fee and they waive the bonding requirement.
All right, that's the
And
bonding part that I missed.
Yeah, and then I think your town insurance covers you. So that's why for you, it's essentially free.
Right.
It's just administrative costs.
Okay. Yeah, I knew about the $60, but that second part I think I missed in the
Okay. Yep.
glitches here. Thank you.
My pleasure. So that's the encroachment permit.
Thank you, Kurt.
We ran out of time at the last meeting, or no, not at the previous meeting where we went long.
Our meetings.
We've completed the gutter flow analysis, and essentially, let me see if this is something I can share. I don't want to take up too much. Okay, that's a spreadsheet that you probably won't even be able to see. Some of these things get very difficult to see on the screen. Well, okay. This it may not look like much, but this is Harford Avenue, and the dark lines that you see are what we call catchment areas. And what we do is we divide up the drainage area into catchment areas, and what those relate to are where is the water going in that area. So on Harford Avenue, we know that we have catch basins. So we lay out, and it's based on the topography, which we have. So we know where the water is going to go. And we always think of water as a particle. I lots of times think of it as a marble. If I dropped a marble, where would it go? Well, that's the same path that the water is going to go. So mathematically, it's treated as a particle. In the software that we use, is treated as millions of individual particles, but each of those particles is really a numeric data point. So, and that's where the computer is great for this stuff, because it's very good at churning out those data points. So, long story short, and I just wrote this up here for summary purposes, we really targeted the lower properties on Harford Avenue, where there was a concern that water would flow over the lip of the driveway. And we do have that topography down there where it's essentially the lowest portion of the road. There's a catch basin adjacent to that driveway. We call it CB4, catch basin 4. So we basically ran the analysis and we look at degrees of rainfall. So as an example, if there's a light sprinkle outside and it's, there may be no gutter flow at all. If there's a really, really brutal, heavy rain, of course there's going to be gutter flow. So we have to sort of establish waypoints along the way. So we talk about those in terms of 2-year storm, 10-year storm, and that relates to the frequency of reoccurrence. So in quick summary, we did an analysis for a 2-year storm. Essentially, the gutter flow at that driveway lip was 0.17 feet, 2 inches plus or minus. So it's just going to start to come over that lip on a 2-year storm. That's really the point at which we wanted to know, right? At what point will water begin to go over that lip? It's a 2-year storm. A 10-year storm, which is a pretty darn good storm, by the way, it's going to be 2.21 feet or about 2.5 inches at that location of the road as it makes its way to the catch basin. So there's kind of right now the lip, and per town standards, the lips, well, right now some of them may be less, but they will be 1.5 inches per town standard. So it gives you a feel at that location. That is not something that I feel has been created. It's a matter of physics, the fact that the topography of the property is low. And I think some of the things we're doing, as we discussed in our field meeting, will help mitigate some of this. Revising some of the slopes, revising the area of the sidewalk to flow toward the gutter. So whereas this is focusing on that 1.5-inch lip, it in and of itself doesn't tell the whole story. So I don't want to make it sound like, uh-oh, at the 2-year storm, we've got a problem. We don't necessarily have a problem because of the topography, but
if we present it with that, the gutter flow is one aspect of it. But let's say there's a property that's 100 feet wide, and we're taking the first 7 feet of that, which is presently flowing back towards the house, and we are now redirecting that 7 feet flowing towards the gutter. Then we can comfortably and ethically say that we're redirecting 700 square foot of surface area from flowing to the yard to the gutter. We're redirecting it. I mean, is that a fair statement?
Yeah, and that's why I don't think we really, in my opinion, it's up to the committee, but I don't think we really need to do anything with this data. It's good to know, but we're based on this data, we're not really suggesting any design changes, or it's sort of a factual assessment of what's there. So I don't think we're in a position where we really need to. And to your point, Frank, I'm looking at the cross section of 29 Hartford Avenue right now. We have a small driveway, I'll call it the transition section from the edge of the road to the essentially the sidewalk, which in the terms of a driveway, we call it the apron. That little transitional section is pitched toward the street at 1.4%. Then we have the driveway, which is pitched toward the street at 1.5%. So right there, we've mitigated a lot of effect because there's two features that are now going to be pitched toward the road. So that's good news. That's the good news. And that's consistent with what we told them in the field. The good news is it has not changed. So again, I don't think we need to do anything with that data. It just lets us understand maybe what the property owners have been seeing with rainfall. And it's just a matter of topography.
We've done our due diligence. There's not much more we can do. But if we get the question, we have the answer.
Right.
Mary Jo, I got to scoot. So. Sorry.
Thank you, Tim.
Bye, Tim.
Good later.
So the last thing that I had was, let's see. Okay. Was at 264 Shore Road, which is currently occupied by a business. I will share content. Okay, so there's 264 Shore Road. Presently, this is the property. So presently there are 3 curb cuts, 1, 2, and 3. So to look at them again from this view, here's 1, 2, and 3. The current proposal is to eliminate the middle curb cut. I've sort of sketched in, sorry for the bad graphics here, but new curbing here to maintain the island, cleaning up this curbing here, and similarly down here, that's what will occur. So to look at that in plan view, here's the cleanup of the curbing at the first entrance. Let me blow this up a little bit, I apologize. Is that easier to see?
Yeah.
Here's the other curbing. As you can see, the sidewalk now traverses this area. And you'll notice at the 2 remaining entrances, we have the ramps that go down. There is no sidewalk through there. Okay, so the thing that I noticed, and I think DOT probably even missed this. This is one property. So I'm sorry, I keep switching back and forth. Their property line, there's a residential house right here with a gravel driveway. There's a property line right in here. And then the other property line is down here. So pretty decent size property. The property line is about where the hand is. This location has 2 businesses in it. There has been installed this concrete island.
No, that's only one business in that location.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought there was a liquor store on this side or something, on this end.
No, that's Teddy's Pizza.
The liquor store,
Okay.
the next building down.
I know, but wasn't there, I noticed something, oh, maybe it was just the signs in the windows that said,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay,
Signs.
okay. So fine, that it's almost, that actually maybe helps a little bit. Clearly this island was installed after the fact, right? It's clearly not original to this building. Is there a concern with closing off this entrance? I notice at this property, and in fact, let me call up an aerial view that might be better because it shows the entire. Bear with me. See, this is why for the public meeting, we'll have a presentation all ready to go. There'll be none of this clicking back and forth. Okay, I'm gonna use the aerial. Okay, so I'll zoom. Little blurry, but okay, so we're talking about 264. So there's the first entrance that will stay. You could see the little island. There's the second entrance that would go. Here's the third entrance. There is plenty of parking. Clearly, this business actually has a pretty large parking lot relative to the size of the building. This island will prevent people that come in this entrance from going across here. And that's what I wanted to run by the committee to see if you felt that that was a concern. People using this entrance can still park in front of the building because this is open, but their turning movements may be a little bit restricted because of that. You know, the island will continue across here.
Yeah. How much of those 2 or those 4 parking spaces in front are on state right of way? Is any of it on state right of way?
I'll call up the design plan. So here's the state right of way. There's the front of the building. It appears to me that most of that is on private property. So to the owner's side of the right of way.
So at most, he may lose the 2 outside parking spaces at most.
At most, if you look at the edge of the island and then the right of way, and then we can go to the street view, there's the island. The right of way is probably at that signpost. So it's possible. And we're not making that island any larger into his property. The back side of this island will pretty much remain the same. It may get a little bit larger to make sure we can fit the sidewalk in. If this island wasn't there, I wouldn't be concerned, but I just don't, again, I want to have good relations, make sure that people aren't.
Is his sign on the right of way?
It appears that his sign is just to the back of the right of way. So it would be right about where the hand is.
Right, so we don't have to remove his sign.
Correct.
Okay. I think that I agree with you. I think it's a great idea to have a talk with Teddy. Very reasonable. Mary Jo, what do you think? We just set up a time, where we can kind of show him this view that Kurt's got in front of us and the previous one, the actual picture, and just make sure he's aware of it.
Sure.
All right. So I will sort of repackage these materials. Let me clean them up a little bit so they present well. So when you meet with them, then I'll send that down to you.
It'd be great if we actually had an aerial view that kind of laid it out.
I can do that.
Yeah.
I can definitely do that. Yep, absolutely. One thing that I thought is, maybe it's an opportunity and Jim, you run a restaurant. Tell me if I'm off my rocker here, but maybe it presents an opportunity to freshen up the front of the business and enhance it in some way. He has plenty of parking on the side and in the back. Could it be an opportunity to make something look more attractive in the front of the business? I don't know.
I would never want to speak for Teddy because I don't know exactly how those spots are used right now. Mostly used by people or handicapped or what have you.
Jim, you keep cutting out.
Now we can.
Okay, so I guess I'll take it from the top. I don't want to speak for Teddy, but and I don't know how those spots are currently.
Lost you.
Can you call in like last time?
I know currently, this is Eric speaking, he has his tent set up there for the takeout, so he's not even using them for spots right now, so.
Good
you know,
point.
Maybe it offers him an opportunity to put some outside seating at some point, if that's now no longer parking, to Kurt's point.
Oh, Eric,
Yeah.
I like the way you think. See, that's a positive. He could actually put a nice little patio out there,
Yeah.
picnic
so,
tables, umbrellas.
I mean, it's only 2 spots. I mean, you know, I don't think Teddy would be overly against it, you know, per se.
No, he's anxious. He believes the sidewalks will be a benefit to his business, as most everybody else believes up there too.
Oh, that's good. Good to know.
Once again, I think that we can, you know, Mary Jo, a meeting with Teddy, you know, he's pretty flexible time-wise.
Mhm.
You know, whatever works for you, I'll set it up the same way I set up the meeting with Easy Mart. Like, I also
Great.
think we should at least explore what's going on with the 2 properties down from there, where we're going to be taking their parking completely away. So you know, actually, I think we need to have a talk with everybody on Shore Road, to be honest with you, including Pizza Plus and Dimitri. I mean, I don't think any of these people should be hit with just, oh, by the way, you know, your signs are going away and your parking lot's going to be reconfigured.
And you know what I could do if it's helpful? Well, I was going to say on Friday, but it could be before Friday. Next week, when I drop the plans off at Town Hall on the poster boards, why don't I leave an extra set of the layout plans rolled up that you can use as just, if you do chat with somebody, you can just pick them up and bring them with you. Sometimes the larger set is better for that. I will send you, you know, these in PDF, but just so you've got a large paper copy too, if you want to pop into Town Hall and grab it if you're going to meet with somebody.
Thank
I
you.
definitely think a walk and talk with some of these property owners is going to be key to making sure they're on board and not being stuck with something that they're not prepared for.
And I will tell you, if it ends up that any of these end up next week, like I said, I'll probably end up coming down on Friday. I'm happy to join you if I'm there, if you think it would help. If you think it would hinder, clearly but if you think it'd help to have me there, I'm happy to join you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think with regarding Teddy's and some of these, if we could get them as rapidly as possible, just so we can
Agreed.
set up the meeting, you know, and maybe, you know, who knows, you can set it up Monday for all we know. I mean, you know, once Mary Jo is okay with it, I mean, I'll stop off and talk to Dimitri and Teddy. I know them personally. I don't know the other people. Jim, maybe you know them across the street from you, the old appliance store people. Maybe it's somebody you might be familiar enough with to set up a meeting with.
Jim is trying to call in. He did send me a note that said what Eric said about Teddy, so it's what he was trying to suggest. Yeah, but that makes sense. I think the personal touch seems to be really appreciated. And in fact, when we were at the Easy Mart, Mr. Cohen was there too. And he was supportive and he was trying to work with the owner to make him see the wisdom of speaking with us. So,
Now, everybody so far has been, with a couple of exceptions on Hartford Avenue. Most everybody has been pretty supportive. So I think once again, Mary Jo, talk to me offline or whenever, and just tell me when you and Tim are available, or if Tim wants to be there or not want to be there, whatever. I'll set something up with Teddy and Dimitri. And then if Jim wants to do the old appliance store, that's fine. I do not know John that well, the owner of Pizza Plus's property, but if I have a phone number, I'll call him. I have no problem with that.
does John own it again?
I believe I saw that he's still the owner of the property.
Oh, well,
Isn't that? I was looking at
he lives
Kurt's,
on the road now. He lives just down the street from there, so
okay.
so we can.
I was just looking at Kurt's spreadsheet, and he had I thought it was John as the owner of the property.
Oh, okay. Good.
Unless it's a very recent change that came right out of the Oline database.
I'll look it up right now.
That's great.
And then just since we're on the topic of design, we're now going through, as always happens, fine tuning. We always find little things, and then one thing affects another thing. But the plans are in excellent shape. The plan set. I wish I could share it with you, but that's the one thing that I think you'd be very happy to see, that it's a full construction plan set of drawings. It's nice to flip through it and see all of the, right now there's 23 sheets.
Wow.
So it's very comprehensive, details, and you could build off of where we are now. So I want to stress that I think we're in really good shape, and we're essentially now just polishing and fine tuning. Oh, I did want to report. I did reach out to Connecticut Water, spoke to them. They have no concerns. I have sent them a set of plans. I'm waiting to hear back from a gentleman that wasn't the gentleman that is doing the project down there. He passed me off to someone else that's going to send me something about resetting curb boxes. I'm not sure what it is, but I just told them, look, we want to make sure we're doing it right. We want to make sure that as we reset your little curb boxes, we're following any requirements you have. So I'm waiting for that. I did reach out to Eversource. If you recall, a while back, I had expressed a concern about some of the guy wires.
Mm-hmm.
We've done everything we can to avoid the guy wires. In some cases, we're actually getting fairly close to them. So we have notes and such that say protect the guy wire. But for completeness, I did reach out to Eversource. They have their engineering group in Waterford. So the gentleman that I reached out to actually got right back to me. He said, yeah, I'm going to refer you to the field technician that covers Old Lyme. So he has sent my email on to that field technician. And then I replied, can you please give me his name just in case I need to follow up? So I now have that person's name. Just want to make sure that they don't have any concerns and, T's crossed and I's dotted. If I had to, I would meet them out there to look at them. I'll get them a set of plans, whatever they may need to make sure that we're good as far as Eversource.
I just checked the assessor's card for the town of Old Lyme for that property, and it was sold March 10th. Transaction took place to Sherlin Old Lyme Building Corporation, Whitestone, New York.
So it did get sold. Okay.
So we might want to update that your spreadsheet.
Absolutely. And Frank, what property was that? What number?
That is 284 Shore Road.
Okay, thank you. Yep, we'll update that.
Now, who they are, I don't know who they are. So that's definitely something we're going to have to send a letter out to Mary Jo, and the sooner the better on that one, I think. And that actually may be the people that are in there, but I think that should be a U.S. mail, maybe certified.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be happy to work on letters. I need review, because I don't want to make sure I don't miss anything. So, be happy to, the next batch is Shore Road. My staff and I are working real hard. All right. But yeah, I mean, maybe it's even worth stopping in and, seeing if the people there are the owners. I don't know.
I'll stop up. I mean, I'm right down the street. I'll stop up sometime this weekend.
Thank you. All right.
If we got some time, so I could stop over and see Teddy at the same time.
Yeah, that'd be great. That would be great. We can talk about that offline if you want. I'd be happy to. Monday, no, I have Board of Selectmen, but other than that, pretty good. Right. Anything else, Kurt?
The only item, 2 items, had a conversation with Michael about the prevailing wage stuff. He just had some questions. Good conversation. I think that was on Tuesday.
Michael, who?
The attorney.
Okay, Mike Carey. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry,
No, that's good.
And then I was just curious, Mary Jo, any word back from him? I know we have time, but just checking in on the contract language.
I did send him a letter on the prevailing wage, an email, but I didn't send him anything on the contract. I will.
Okay. And it's okay because, again, as we talked about at the past few meetings, most of his comments were incorporated.
Yeah.
The language changed. I think his review is going to be very easy. The one thing, if you recall, he had committed to writing a couple of the sections where his comment kind of said, oh, I'd suggest rewriting this. And we kind of said, well,
Yep.
that's pretty broad. Michael, can you then please do it? The other stuff, I've already done it all. He just needs to look at it and say, yeah, this is good.
Okay. All
But
right.
just want to keep it on the to-do list.
Could you help me out on that and just send me?
Sure.
Just send me an email of what we want him to remind him of what he needed to do, and then that would help me.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
If I could circle back to the prevailing wage issue, there's a House bill in the legislature now that could severely impact the prevailing wage rates.
Oh.
So I think that as much as we can argue the case, it would be our benefit. Now, whether the bill gets passed in its existing form or whether it gets modified or what the implementation date is, I don't know. But it looks like it could severely impact the prevailing wage rates to the town's detriment. Of course, well, they want to tie the state of Connecticut, that is, not the rest of the world. The state of Connecticut wants to tie the prevailing wage rate to union bargaining agreements versus federal wage rates. So if the union bargaining agreement of the operating engineers is $42 an hour and the federal wage rate is $35 an hour, they want to tie the wage rate to the bargaining agreement rate of $45 an hour. This is the way I understand it in simplistic terms. I mean, certainly from a town perspective and from a logical perspective, makes no sense, but we do things in the state of Connecticut differently than the rest of the country. So I just think that, we ought to be aware of that.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I really do think we're doing due diligence. I'm really proud of us going forward on this. So, and I really think Attorney Carey is in our corner, and we're in good hands, I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
he did reiterate on the phone that, boy, this sure seems like new stuff to me. I said, I agree with you.
Yeah, it's so plain and basic, and it's just napping, okay, but I really am proud of us. Regardless of how it goes, we're doing the right thing. That we know. Okay. Anything else? Because if not, we'll move on to approval of our minutes from the 15th and the 24th. Okay, I'm saying we're moving on to our approval of minutes. Can I have a motion to approve September 15th?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for September 15th.
Thank you, Eric.
Second.
Second,
Thank you, Bonnie. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. How about approval of minutes for September 24th? That was last week.
A motion for approval.
Thank you, Frank.
Second.
Second,
Thank you, Eric. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain.
Next. Thank you, Bonnie. Anybody saying no? Both motions passed. Thank you. Next meeting date. Besides any offline meetings we're going to have here, would anybody feel comfortable? I know Thursdays are bad for Eric.
Not for Jim, not for me.
I'm sorry, Eric, Jim. Of trying, is next Wednesday a possibility for people around?
I can't do Wednesday.
Okay,
Next Wednesday.
okay. You want to try and avoid a Thursday meeting for him. Do you guys want to try Friday? Which is the 9th?
Morning.
Morning? Okay.
Trying to get out of here before 6, 7 o'clock on Friday nights. So
'Don't blame you.
10 o'clock would be great for me.
Bonnie, I know the mornings are tough for you. How does that feel?
Friday is okay.
Thank you. Eric, does that sound all right with you?
That sounds fine.
Great. Okay, so hopefully it'll be okay for Eric. So we'll plan for Friday, 10 a.m. We'll try and keep it short. Terrific. Thank you. All right. And then if there isn't anything else, is there any public online that I don't see? Okay, then a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Eric.
Second.
Second,
Thank you, Bonnie. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you all. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Great to see everybody.
Thank you now. Bye
Good
now.
night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.